Hi guys, and welcome to Cine Club. As you know, I am Maria. We watch movies here. I review them for you. That's about it. And the movie I saw this week was Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. It's been 9 years since the first Sin City came out, which I count as one of my favorite movies of all time. And throughout those 9 years, there's been talk that there's always going to be a second one, and now here it is. So A Dame to Kill For was directed by Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller. The screenplay is by Frank Miller based on his graphic novel Sin City, and this time around they focus on the second novel called as well A Dame to Kill For. The movie is a prequel and a sequel to the one from 2005. So in part it is a sequel because it tells the story of the stripper we know from the first movie, Nancy, who was in love with John Hart again, Bruce Willis's character, and in this time around she is looking for revenge because, you know, the man she loves is dead. Spoiler if you haven't seen the first one. And now she wants the man who is responsible for his death to pay. And in another part is a prequel because it tells the story of Dwight that was played by Clive Owen in the first movie. And this story happens before the first story in Sin City of 2005. And so it's a mixture of time, it's confusing, and I didn't get it right until 3/4 into the movie. If you weren't a fan of the first movie, I don't think you're even going to bother to watch this one in theaters. But if you happen to be a fan of the first one like I am, I think you might find this movie kind of disappointing. It's not like I can say it's horrible or they just didn't get the style and the format right like the first one. In terms of the format and the look and the narration, it's about the same level as the first one. But it's just missing that oomph, that feeling that the one from 2005 had. First of all, before getting into the whole feeling part of the movie that it's not as great, there was just such big confusion for me because there are characters in this movie that should not be because of things that happened in the first movie. Not to ruin the whole thing for you, but characters that were supposed to be dead in the first movie already are alive in this one, and not even in the prequel part, but the actual sequel of the first movie. So I'm very confused as to why they're there, and it just really kind of pulled me out of the movie for quite a long time. I'm trying to figure out what's going on, when this is happening, because I want to link it to the first one, you know, I want some kind of continuity, but I can't find it, and I know I'm not supposed to be bothered by it, but I am, a little bit. Nobody dies in Sin City. Nobody. But that's just a side note. It really took me quite a while to figure out why this movie isn't great. It just didn't have the same impact on me, and I think the main reason why that is because the stories in this movie are not as compelling or as resonating as the stories in the first one. A Dame to Kill For is mainly divided in two big stories, and there's like this one additional story in the middle that works as an intermission and as just some additional information in a way of linking these two stories. The stories feel like they drag on a lot more, and they don't feel as complex as the other ones. It felt very cut and dry, like they were putting a block in front of another, and you were just being told very coldly everything that was happening. Oh, so now he's going through this, and right now he's over here doing that, and this is exactly how the story ends, and that's it. And in the first one, I don't recall knowing exactly what was going to happen to each character. I remember it was still quite a mystery, like it could be really up in the air, you weren't exactly sure how everything was going to end. And in this one, you can tell. You can tell from the very beginning who's gonna live and who's gonna die. And I think that flaw in the movie is actually partly the fault of the traditional narration that is part of Sin City. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Frank Miller's writing, and I love the voiceover of his characters. I think it's one of my favorite things about the movies and one of my favorite things about his style. But in this movie, I dare say, it was really heavy-handed. It was just literally narrating everything that was happening as it was happening. It could have been just someone opening the script, reading it right in front of you, and it would have been the same result. That's exactly what it felt like, and it just really felt too much. Another thing that felt like it was too much was the violence, and I'm not being a sissy about this, trust me. I am okay with some creepo eating prostitutes because he thinks that's the right thing to do. I am okay with Marv beating the crap out of some guy just to get information from him. And I am okay with somebody just ripping apart the yellow bastard. I am fine with all of it. In fact, I love it. But even though the first Sin City was really violent, I feel like there were a few things that were left to the imagination which really enhanced the experience. But in A Dame to Kill For, I feel like they're being violent just for the sake of being violent. You can hear every bone cracking, every eyeball gouging, every flesh pummeling sound at all times, and after a while it's just like, ooh, it's too much. It doesn't really help me enjoy it. It just feels mundane even. I feel like they went very safe with the story, but then decided to go really big on some other elements, and just that juxtaposition of a really tame story, but lots of violence and lots of fake blood and lots of all this other stuff that looks like Sin City, that difference just didn't go well together. And there was a lot of sex. Like, I don't recall a single, maybe one, but apart from that, I don't remember any other sex scene in the first Sin City. Not to mention that there wasn't anything sex related or there were boobs or everything, but this one was just like really in your face. There was this really big sex scene that they were trying to make about these two main characters, and for a moment it felt like they were trying to do the montage from 300. Like they were trying to make it into that Frank Miller style but still make it look rough and sexy and still appealing to everybody who would see it, but it didn't work. It just looked silly. It didn't really add to anything, and they have a few more scenes like that where you're like, okay, yeah, they're doing it, I guess. Can I have popcorn? Also, there is a ton of evergreen boobs. If you thought you had seen a lot of evergreen boobs before, no, she goes all out in this movie. But to be fair, if you look like that naked, I would let it slide as well. I'm not complaining, I'm just putting it out there. If you have any reason to see it, maybe that's it. So if I had to rate this movie, guys, I would tell you that A Dame to Kill For would be alright if you would rent it on DVD. It's not a horrible movie, it just made me feel nothing. Like, I went in, I saw it, I left, and I was like, okay, I saw Sin City 2. I don't ever need to see it again. It's a real pity. I think in part it's that they waited so long, because maybe if they had made this exact same movie 2 years after the first one, you would have been like, okay, it wasn't great, but cool, they did it, and maybe there'll be a third one. 9 years later, it feels like a lot of wait for something that was just eh. But guys, that's just my opinion. Tell me, what did you think about Sin City, A Dame to Kill For? If you are a big fan of Sin City, tell me which one was your favorite novel. I'm really thinking about getting into it. I'm gonna buy them and read them. But I want to know if any of you are fans, which one was your favorite story. But guys, that's everything for this episode of Cineclub. I hope you enjoyed watching this review as much as I enjoyed talking to you about it. Don't forget that if you liked the video, you can give it a big thumbs up. That is always appreciated. And more importantly, if you really liked it, you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I got a new movie review every week for you and a few movie talks here and there as well. Also, if you would like to see more of this, you can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm all over the place, and I will leave all the links down below. But nonetheless, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you on our next movie date. Bye! Nailed it.